Welcome back to the OCAD Youth Sports Report. I'm your host, Avishai Saul, and this is the last episode of this semester. It has been an awesome time. I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys about sports, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on and on and on and on and on and on. By the time you hear this, it will be December, which means winter is here. Or at least coming. There is snow on the streets of Toronto. And that means two things. One, pancakes will taste a whole lot better. And two, we can start playing winter sports again. Ice skating, curling if that's your thing, skiing certainly, and of course, hockey. Which gets to something I want to talk to you guys about. I will be honest with you, I am not a hockey player. I love the sport, but I cannot play. My parents are American. We grew up watching football, basketball, and baseball more than hockey. I got into hockey later in life, and I didn't even really learn to skate until recently. But that's about to change. This winter, I vow that I will learn to play hockey at a serviceable rate. That's my goal. I'll have video footage a few months from now so we can check in on this. Hold me to it. If I don't follow through, then you'll see the failure that I am. And if I do follow through, you'll see the triumph in my eyes. That's the goal for this winter. Mark it down, people. We've had a very busy week in the world of sports. Let's get started. First, NBA. We have reached 20 games into the season, which is roughly the one-quarter mark. So let me get into some brief news just of what's happened so far. One, Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are leading their respective teams to the first seed in their respective conferences and in the league MVP race. They're both playing incredible. Just neck and neck, awesome. Over the summer, the NBA made a rule change making it harder for the offensive player to draw fouls. This has allowed for more physical style of play and has resulted for the scoring being down across the board. But nobody has felt the rule changes more than guards like Damian Lillard, James Harden, and Trae Young, who can't take advantages of the refs anymore like they used to. They used to lurch into defenders and draw fouls. Not anymore. Raptors forward Scottie Barnes is leading everybody in the Rookie of the Year race. The Kings have fired their head coach, Luke Walton, because he sucks. The Wizards have had a hot start. The Lakers have had a cold start. And Kyrie Irving is still refusing to get vaccinated because he's a silly, silly, silly. Next, in the world of soccer, big game this past week. Chelsea versus Man United resulted in a tie. I don't get the ties. I'm sorry. Call me a North American. I'm an American. If you're a true soccer fan, a true football fan, if you're from the other side of the pond, I know that ties are like just part of it, and you learn to accept it. But I don't understand why we have ties. It's not hard you go into penalty kicks. You add extra time. You da 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 da. You da 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 da. We really couldn't have figured out a way to break the tie. They're just the same amount. The game ends, no one wins. Seems anticlimactic to me. Some Olympic news next. The Olympic community has released the new designs for the winter medals for the upcoming Winter Olympics. They look like this. Nice. Now the WNBA. There has been some major rule changes regarding the formatting of the WNBA playoffs. Previously, they had single elimination round robins running. They will now hold their playoffs a little something like this. Starting with the 2022 WNBA season, 8 teams with the highest winning percentages over the 36-game schedule advance to the postseason and are seeded by record. The first round, where the number 1 seed faces the number 8 seed, and the number 2 seed plays the number 7 seed, and so on and so on and so on. These consist of 4 best-of-3 series. The semifinals and the WNBA finals will continue to a best-of-5 series. So these are some major changes because, first of all, it's many more high-intensity games. Playoff games are always going to warrant even more exertion and even more tension than a regular season game. It's a more grueling playoffs. So it's more difficult for the players, but on the other hand, it's more content, it's more ball, it's more games, it's also more money for the league. The other thing that's important to mention is that will the lack of single elimination games get rid of some of that tension? Part of why we love March Madness is that instant Win or lose, single elimination, do or die, always. And that sometimes results in more drastic upsets, but it also adds that level of intensity, more room for narrative and theater. But here's what I take away from this rule change. And this, I think, is a positive note. I'm always an optimist looking for the silver linings. And this is what I like about this rule change, especially because it's a major rule change. That the NBA, who is the umbrella organization for the WNBA, is looking to improve their WNBA product. The WNBA has been sort of sidelined as a second-class attraction. And while it will probably never reach the same heights as the NBA, it's good that the umbrella organization that is the NBA is looking for ways to improve their WNBA product. They're giving it the attention it deserves, and hopefully this will make for growing popularity of women's basketball in the future. Next, in the world of boxing. In a thrilling upset, George Kambosos Jr. defeats Teofimo Lopez to win the unified lightweight title. Kambosos and Lopez each scored a knockdown in the fight, but the rugged Australian left Madison Square Garden with the titles in tow as a result of a rousing upset by decision. There was some beef after the fight, very even fight and a very narrow win for Kambosos, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about lightweight boxers because when they're in the ring, they look super intimidating. And they are, and granted, they could beat the hell out of me. They are tough dudes. But what I always find funny is when they step into outside of the ring, they always look so tiny. I saw Floyd Mayweather once come on a talk show, and if I didn't know that was Floyd Mayweather, I would have bet, my money would have been on Jimmy Fallon. College basketball. The college basketball season is in full swing now. We've had a couple games in, which means that I am looking at lottery picks. I love college basketball, but the thing I love the most about it is the superstars on each of their teams contending for slots in the NBA draft. Two of those stars stand out among the rest. The University of Gonzaga's Chet Holmgren and Duke University's Paolo Banchero. Now, quick description of each of these players. Holmgren is a 7-foot center with guard skills, passing vision, and shooting range. He's got a lot of skills at his size. He's also a tremendous shot blocker with great timing around the rim. Any weaknesses? He is only 190 pounds at 7 feet tall. He is not a beefy dude, which means that stronger players can muscle him around. He's also not very quick, and he's not a very high jumper. Physically, he has a lot of ground to cover, but his mind and his skills will hopefully make up for that. He's a very talented player. Now Banchero. Banchero does not have the sort of strange allure that Holmgren does as a 7-foot guard maybe, but Banchero is a lot more polished, I believe, much more ready for the NBA game right out of college. He is a 6'10", I believe, strong, chiseled power forward with passing vision. He is a supreme athlete. He's already expanding his shooting range beyond the three-point line. I've always been partial to Banchero over Holmgren. I recognize Holmgren's skills, but I also see his weaknesses, and I can't get past that, especially when comparing to such a well-rounded, polished player like Banchero. And I was proved right this past week where Duke and Gonzaga squared off in a very close duel with Duke prevailing 84-81. I wanted to mention that because it's important to know about the biggest names in college hoops, but I also wanted to just brag about me being right. Now to the world of football. There were Thanksgiving games. Part of why there was no episode last week is I went back to visit my American family for American Thanksgiving, and we watched some football. There are a lot of Buffalo Bills fans in Toronto. It's the nearest team to the city, and they'll be happy because the Bills defeat the Saints 31-6 in the Thanksgiving game. Oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, when the Saints go marching in, they will lose by 25 points and go back to the swamp they came from. Ha. It felt good. It felt good to beat the Saints if you were a Bills fan. It's great. But either way, East Side forever, baby. Anyway, so this got me thinking. This Thanksgiving game got me thinking about sports in our lives. The way sports translates to day-to-day life. The way we mark the seasons by sporting events. Whether it's Super Bowls or March Madness or the Masters in the spring training, the NBA Finals, All-Star weekends, free agencies, opens, tennis tournaments, and of course, not to mention the Olympics, the World Cup. We start to mark the seasons by these events. So Why is it that sports matter so much? Why do we set so much store by these games? Why do we love sports? Why do we watch sports as fans? Not as professionals, not as workers within the industry, but as fans. I'll tell you what I think. Sports ranks among very few things in this world that are a universal language. Things like music, art, food, things like a roller coaster. Things that, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, country of origin, shape, size, anything, you can find a way to enjoy because they just appeal to something human inside all of us. It doesn't matter if you are a professional athlete, if you're a super fan like myself, or if you are a casual fan. Sports can bring people together like few other things can. I was sitting in my grandparents' house watching this sports game with my 10-year-old cousin, with my 78-year-old grandfather. We were varying degrees of fan, we were varying degrees of interested, but we watched the game because we were doing it together and because we can understand it. Because it brought us together and let us understand. So now we're going to end with Athlete of the Week, who is my cousin Aiden. Aiden really deserves it this week. I went and saw him. He was one of the family I visited when I went to the States on my trip, and he is nearly as obsessed with basketball as I am. I went over. It was very cold out, but there was a neighbor who had a basketball net in their front yard, and he wanted to play every day. Rain or shine or snow or cold or whatever. He was out there before I came out, then we played some one-on-one, and then I went back to the house because it was freezing, and he stayed out there. He truly deserves Athlete of the Week this week. If he continues like this, he'll be a better basketball player than I am. Aiden, you are this week's Athlete of the Week. This has been the OCAD Youth Sports Report Season 1. It was a true pleasure. My name is Avishai Sala, and I will see you guys in the new year.